Jason Chaffetz, former congressman, good friend of freedom and liberty, and we are just grateful to have him today.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to be with you. It's a brisk morning, but it should be even colder out there. Thank you to the Brown family. Not only a great talent, good friends, but the music that they are able to perform. I've been asked on multiple occasions not to participate in the singing of anything whatsoever. Even in a primary class, they've asked me to do what's best for America, and that is just listen and appreciate the music that way. But do appreciate the Browns and that beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Thank you for being involved and engaged. It's often said that the world is run by those who decide to show up, and showing up is hard to do sometimes. It takes a lot of your time and effort, but it's also what our country requires. I don't want to start too heavy right off the bat here on a beautiful morning, but I'm truly missing a couple people. One is Don Ruzicka. Don was a great friend, and we love Gail, and we appreciate the invitation and more importantly, the friendship that we've had for a couple decades now. It's hard to believe, but and missing Don, and I know you are, if you're involved and engaged in the Eagle Forum for any period of time, what we miss Don. And we also miss my friend Charlie Kirk. You know, how many people, if any, are here, were at UVU the morning that, a few, yeah. There were about 3,000 Utahns who experienced that in person, and something that no person should ever have to experience. And, I was there with my family. Our daughter, I don't want to relive the whole thing, but our daughter, Kate, who graduated from UVU, she really only wanted to visit and meet with, as a member of Congress, being on Fox, I get to meet a lot of really cool people. And she said to me, there's only two people she really wanted to hang out with. One was President Trump. And I got a funny story about that, maybe for another day. And then the other one was Charlie Kirk. And so her husband had been married too long. They wanted to come. It was that beautiful, I think it was Wednesday afternoon, it was bright and sunny. And my wife was joining me. She hadn't quite gotten there right as the event had started, but I couldn't sit in the sun like our daughter. Our daughter wanted to just soak up the rays. And me, I had to avoid that. And so I was off to the side after we kind of got together. And I had been texting with Charlie in the days before about getting together and coming to visit. And he said, yeah, sure, we'll get together, let's. And then what happened. And it's sad and it's hard and it's difficult. When I first went to Congress, very fortunate, very blessed, 2008, right? That was the 2008 election cycle. I think somewhat naively thought that, you know what? I am so blessed to be here, so grateful to be here. But we have Democrats, we have Republicans. We're all ultimately fighting for the same thing. We just have different ways of getting there. When I left Congress, 2017, I thought, no, that's not true. That's not true. This is a fight of good versus evil. I think there are some good, decent Democrats. I'm not here to disparage everybody on one side of the aisle. They can be our friends. They can be our neighbors. We can be civil. That's who we are as a people, is to be civil, even with those we really, truly disagree with. But the other side, if you will, doesn't see it like that. They don't. I always thought that we were fighting for the United States of America, that what united us were the red, the white, and the blue, that we all love our country. We want the best. We want prosperity, freedom. But no, that is not the way it's turning out. And I think that is playing out more and more and more every single day. This fight of good versus evil is It's true. It's palatable. You can see it. And the way they are attacking law enforcement, the way they are treating their fellow human beings, their neighbors, is just appalling. We didn't do that. We don't do that. If you're a conservative, if you believe in God and country like I do, you don't act like that. You make your case. You know, in this country, you have a right, constitutional right, a right given by God, really, which is the idea that you can petition your government, you can express your frustration by, as the Constitution says, peacefully protesting, right? Peacefully protesting. That's not what's going on. It's not what's going on in Minneapolis. It's not what went on in Los Angeles with the riots where the president had to bring out the Marines. That's not what's playing out in day to day, even right here in the streets of Salt Lake City and the greater Salt Lake County. That's not what's happening. I went out with ICE. It was actually the morning of the event, the Charlie Kirk deal. I'd been texting with Charlie to, hey, why don't you join me? I'm going out with ICE. Going out with ICE means you got about a 4 a.m. wake-up call because they go out early. You know why they go out so early? Because you find out real quickly that less protesters will show up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning than they will at 7 or 8 at night. But when I talk to these officers who are trying to do what they're supposed to do, they get doxxed. They get followed. They get trackers on them so that there's these warnings and whistles that are going up. They get harassed. They show them pictures of their kids, just letting them know, hey, you know, I can see you. I can see your family. And yet they still persevere. They're not the highest paid people in government, I can tell you that. But they do an incredible, incredible job. And what's amazing to me in this whole scenario, this whole situation is they still do it. You know, it's still illegal to be in this country illegally. And they'll try to make the argument, oh, it's a civil offense. Or then, no, folks, I'm sorry. We have people that are, through our own compassion, are taking advantage of us to the nth degree. Now, we are a decent people. We're going to take care of the downtrodden who physically, literally cannot take care of themselves. There is a proper role to do that as a community, as a state, as a nation. But we've been overrun with people that are taking huge advantage of that. And yet we still play into this whole idea and this notion that we need more of that. You know, one of the things our state's dealing with right now is homelessness. I do not buy into this because it is a huge disservice to say that it's all just homeless. It is much more complicated than that, okay? You have abused spouses. You have people that truly go through a financial crisis. Maybe they have to file for bankruptcy. But then you have an entire drug culture. You have another part of the culture that likes this kind of lifestyle. They like that they can just do nothing and not work. You have people that are truly addicted and have serious addiction problems. And then you have truly some people with some mental health issues that are severe and untreated, cause all kinds of problems. So to just say that it is homeless, I think is a huge disservice. Now, some would argue that what we need a bigger encampment. We need to house like 1,300 of them all at once. What are you going to do if you do that? You're going to get more homeless. It's going to be a magnet. They're taking advantage of the good heart that we have here in Utah. When I went to Congress, I'm not an attorney. That's an applause line, folks, right there. You didn't catch that. I'm not an attorney, but I was put on the Judiciary Committee as well as the Oversight Committee and Homeland Security. And I purposely asked to be on the Immigration Subcommittee. You know, that's where I wanted to be. Because it was such a big issue and we've got to tackle it head on. Get rid of the rewards and incentives, lock down that border, reject amnesty. I mean, this was the mantra of what I was all about and still am today. Well, we go there, and of course, the Democrats and their brilliance, Democrats had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. You had Zoe Lofgren from California heading up the Immigration Subcommittee. And I was really excited because I wanted to have this debate. I wanted to argue with my fellow members of Congress. Do you know that in that subcommittee, we had 2 meetings that year? 2. In 2 years. One was a class photo, like where you get together and a photographer comes and takes your picture. That was an entire meeting. The only other meeting that they had was to have Stephen Colbert come and testify about immigration. Stephen Colbert, are you kidding? So I didn't even show up to that one. I didn't think the dignity of it was just a total waste of time. And I protested it and I decided not to show up. I just thought he knows nothing about immigration and I really don't care what he has to say about it. That's not going to inform the discussion. Well, in going through that process on immigration, now you hear the Democrats yell and scream, oh, we need comprehensive immigration reform. No, you don't. You need to enforce the laws that are currently on the book. And don't tell me that and now they yell and scream about, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that and they're being so oppressive and doing all that. I want you to write this down, okay? Because I just spent the last 3 days of my life in Washington, D.C. with Peter Schweitzer. Peter Schweitzer is with the Government Accountability Institute. They're based in Florida, small group. And this is about 10 researchers and people who really care about oversight like I do. Peter wrote Blood Money. He wrote Clinton Cash. He's the reason we know about Uranium One. And I think if you look on Amazon, his book comes out on January 18th. And it's called The Invisible Coup. Okay? That's what it's called, The Invisible Coup. So my being a distinguished fellow at the Institute there, I know a lot about these books. And this book in particular, I should say, that is coming up. It's talking about how the Chinese, the Mexicans, the drug cartels, and the jihadists are using mass migration as a weapon and a tool to fundamentally change the way we do politics, who gets elected, doesn't get elected, and who does not, and how to take down Republicans, and specifically President Trump. So we actually spent 3 days visiting with various senators, various people in the White House, various people in the House. And I think foreshadowing what you're going to see in about 10 days here, if you watch Life, Liberty, and Levin, Mark Levin on January 18th, that hour will be dedicated to talking to Peter about this invisible coup that is going on. And I think it is very real. There are over 1,000 footnotes in this book, okay? 1,000. I cannot give you the details because Peter wants to roll out the book the way he wants to roll out the book, but suffice it to say, you will be utterly shocked, as if you haven't been shocked before, about how the Mexicans, the Chinese, jihadists, drug cartels are taking advantage of us. And that starts in the governor's office right here in Utah, I can tell you that. This whole compassion, we got to be more compassionate, we need to welcome more people, and all. They're taking advantage of us and they're doing things that are so subversive to our government, our way of life, and the people of Utah. So there's this balance that we have to find. And in Utah, we don't have it right now, okay? We do not have it. There is a balance between compassion and taking care of a true refugee who can claim credible fear, and this other side of the equation that says, oh no, we're going to overrun and overwhelm the system. And you're not going to do anything about it because you don't have the political guts to arrest, detain, and deport. You know, if you look at, I think it's 18 USC 1325, it is illegal to be in this country illegally. And so you can claim credible fear, but there is a standard on credible fear. So what's happened here over the course of time, and I saw this particularly with President Obama, certainly with President Biden, is they started to change the standard of what's called credible fear. Credible fear means you risk your life, that if you were to go back to your home country, you would probably not only be persecuted, but you'd potentially lose your life. There's only certain countries in certain parts of the world where this is true. You remember the Boston bombers, the Sanarov brothers, right? That family? They came in on one of these visas and they settled there in Boston. What our government didn't understand and fully appreciate and take care of is that the Sanarov family, parts of their family, left the country and left the United States, went back to the country of origin. And that's where law enforcement and others believe in an intelligence community that they were trained. And this is where they were trained. And then they came back and did what? Had one of the most horrific terrorist events that we've had in this country. So that's happening now on a regular basis. We do not fully still have an entry-exit program to understand who's coming in and who's leaving. And if you overstay your visa, not much consequence. Now, I think Donald Trump, for the first time, President Trump is trying to make that happen. And the concerted effort that Tom Homan and those are doing is just really, really important work. But we're still overwhelmed in terms of numbers. But here's what we shouldn't be doing. If you're here illegally, you shouldn't be able to get a driver privilege card in the state of Utah. You shouldn't be able to get a commercial driver's license. They have issued commercial driver's licenses in Utah to people who cannot demonstrate that they are citizens of the United States of America. They may say they're residents, but that's different than being a citizen. And that has to change. Please, 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 if you want to go really deep and understand this issue, listen to or read or watch at least the shows on the different networks and podcasts. I recorded a podcast with Peter that will come out in a couple weeks. But the invisible coup, because it's real, and Utah is at the epicenter of one of these. Let me just tell you, I'll give you just one glimpse. I'm probably not supposed to, but yeah, that's all right. Peter will get over it. The Mexican government is very active in supporting what they call Reconquista. Reconquista is the word you want to learn, because Reconquista, from President Sheinbaum on down, is this effort to retake what they believe is stolen land from the 1800s. And they specifically cite Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Arizona, or Utah, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado. Their target in terms of overwhelming and swarming the system are those states. That's one of our states, okay? And then you'll be able to see and hear and understand how they do that. And it's just, anyway, I could keep going. So what do you do to fight against that if you aren't the federal government? You don't run ICE. You can't use federal law enforcement. It is a federal issue. Well, there's a couple things that we need to do here in the state of Utah. Number one, we need that 287G program Now, for those of you that don't understand what T287G is, it's a cooperative agreement that deputizes local law enforcement to help assist and partner with ICE, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now, there is a very good reason why some of the counties and local law enforcement in Utah did not participate in the 287G program under President Biden and President Obama. And that had to do with the onerous standards of incarceration that were so untenable that people like Mike Smith, the sheriff of Utah County, would have ceded control to the feds on how to control the jail. They weren't using the same standard as the U.S. Marshals or local law enforcement, and people like that weren't willing to give that up. And it was a very smart decision, but things have changed now. Now it's the Trump administration, and the standard has changed, and he is able to do this. We still don't have the resources here in Utah to make sure that when we do find somebody who is here illegally and they get tangled up with law enforcement, that ICE is able to come get them and then deport them. That is not happening at 100% level. And I've argued this and will continue to argue this with the Trump administration. They're trying, but they're so overwhelmed in terms of the numbers, it's hard to get enough bodies. And the ICE office in Utah they run out of Salt Lake, but they also control Nevada, Montana, Idaho, and it's just untenable how big a swatch of land that is. So let's say they find somebody, they're here illegally, maybe they were caught on a DUI. In order to get them departed, what do they need to do? They need to take them to Pahrump, Nevada, which is on the west side of Las Vegas. And it's really hard to transport them all that way, all that way. And so it slows it down. They have to make judgment calls. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can't do that. And so it's my brother calling me. Sorry. So that's one of the things that we have to do. Now, here's where I could really use your help, okay? I really distrust and dislike the way we vote here in the state of Utah, okay? Everybody should have to vote same time, same place, in person, with a voter ID, in person, on the same day, same information. This is not rocket science, folks. This is a principle that should be universal. This whole idea that, Congressman, we need to make it easier. It's really popular. Yeah, let's take all these ballots and throw them out in the wind and see what comes back, and then we'll see if we can match my signature. I mean, I can't even match my signature. Some days I sign it like this, sometimes like that. Are you kidding me? And then to naively say, oh, there's no fraud here. It's not possible. Are you kidding? It's impossible. There's a safer way to do it. No, it's not. When you go precinct by precinct to have somebody show up and they have to show their identification, which again, if it was a driver's license and you had to be a United States resident, then, not a driver privilege card, not a, hey, this is my Rocky Mountain power bill and look, I'm a resident, The Democratic Party has no even signature requirement in their process. So you can't even do audits and things on their side of the aisle. Everybody should vote same day, same time, same information, in person with a voter ID. And if you choose in this state to participate as a Republican, have at it. And you should be a participant in how we vote and who you're going to vote for. That's great. What the Democrats have figured out is that they can switch parties and affect an election. They just toggle back and forth. And then when they can show up on the Democratic side, no signature required, they get to vote in both. Why do we continue to give these people so much power? Because we're trying to be more compassionate? Because it's supposed to be easier? Because it's supposed to be cheaper? That's not the principles of where we should be in this country. And we know we have this major immigration crisis that is happening right here in our own backyard. The very, very fundamental of what we should be able to do, the very one of the fundamental things we should have to do is to make sure that we have the integrity of the vote. And we don't have that now. And it is one of the tier one issues that is most important that I think, particularly places like the Eagle Forum and others, that you have to insist and demand. And in some of these state legislators, I'm sorry, they are so naive to how this is going down. They are so naive. As long as they continue to win, oh, I'm fine. Here's the other thing that we have to have, okay? And not to get ahead of myself, but my goodness, the time has come. The alarm has rung. Who's going to have the political guts to actually institute term limits, for goodness sake? There should be term limits in this state. Get in, serve, and get your butt out of there, okay? You got to worry about the people that want to stay there in perpetuity. Some of these state legislators are staying there far too long. Now, I don't want to disparage everybody's intent, but what I'm saying is you should be able to serve for a period of years. Then you got to get out. There should be a term limit on the governor. There should be a term limit on the senators, and there should be a term limit on the other positions as well. And if you want to leave one role and then run for another one, great. Go ahead and do that. Voters get to decide. I have morphed over this because I first went into it naively thinking, oh, well, you know, the Constitution already takes care of that. We vote every 2 years. I left coming where Ron DeSantis is, which says, no, we have to have term limits. Because once you do get into power, you have a lot of power. And that is not the way our founders, I believe, thought that these would roll out. These elections have become so big and so convoluted. It's time to make sure that we institute that as well. So those are two of the pillars of things that we could do. And guess what? They also happen to fight back against this very thing that we're having to deal with people taking advantage of our state and pushing us in a direction I don't think most of us really want to go to. And that is pivotal. Now, let me come to, as I conclude here, to the final, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I got 3 minutes. One of the biggest challenges that we have is going to be the quality of life, our way of life. You know, it used to be in our economy, way back when, we had tourism. You go down south, you had the ski industry, right? Then we had Kennecott, which was driving so many jobs, particularly out of Salt Lake County. We had mineral extraction that was happening in Emery County and other parts of the state. That was driving a big part of the economy. And then the third part was top of Utah, where we would have Hill Air Force Base, but we had Morton Thiokol and the space program, and we were doing a lot. That was driving the Utah economy for a long time. But we've changed now, right? We've added a fourth component, which is good. It's strength and numbers in terms of jobs and prosperity and everything else. And that has to do with technology. And technology can be good as long as it's used in good ways, right? But it also is dangerous. And I think one of the things that we really have to pay attention to as families, as parents, as neighbors, as a society, is the breadth and scope of technology is far outpacing what I think most people are aware of. AI, artificial intelligence, how's our economy going to look? What are your kids and grandkids going to do for jobs? Like if you were 12 years old and you were thinking about your kid or your grandkid, I'm starting to think about my 6 grandkids, right? What are they going to do for a job? Where should they focus their time and attention? Where are they going to work? How are they going to work? I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. That man is the living day, he's just Einstein and every other amazing person you can possibly imagine. Listen to him. He foreshadows things. He tells us what life is going to be like because he's already got the planet and he's already got the technology and he already understands what is capable and not capable. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just saying if we're going to, as a people, as a society, going to focus on time and attention and where we need to think about things and what things are going to look like, that's one area that we got to do. So let me circle all the way back and say, the United States of America is still the greatest country on the face of the planet. We overcome challenges. We find these things. We see these problems and we solve them. We come up with them. But the overwhelming tsunami of technology and communication and Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and things that we're not even aware of, the way people are communicating truly affects our quality of life, our way of life, and we have to continually to evolve ourselves. Okay? It used to be in this country that everybody had a horse and only the rich people had cars. Now everybody's got a car and only rich people have horses. Okay? So life changes. We got to adapt and change with it. Okay? But I know we can do it. And if we're going to continue to hang on to the United States of America as we believe it should be, with life and liberty and prosperity, just as Charlie Kirk was talking about, freedom. He's wearing that shirt, freedom, right across his chest. That's the kind of America that I want. But we have to fight for it. It's like Ronald Reagan said, you have to fight for it. And Donald Trump, bless his heart, I got to spend 45 minutes with him day before yesterday. He is an amazing, amazing president. And you may not agree with everything he says or the way he says it, but I tell you, somehow, some way, God gave us Donald Trump, and we should all pray for him and thank him and hope that he continues to do the right thing at the right time. Thanks for hearing me out. I truly do appreciate it. Thanks for joining today. It's going to be a great day. Gail, thank you for having me here today. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.